Lorna, again!
Lorna Dane first made her debut in the 49th issue of Uncanny X-Men published by Marvel Comics, released in October 1968. This character was originally created by Jim Steranko and Arnold Drake under the alias of Polaris, the daughter of Magneto, from the House of Magnus. Initially, before Lorna turned into Polaris, she always wanted to roam the world and see its beauty with her own eyes. But unfortunately, fate caused her to settle for this life to avoid the wrath of her biological father, Magneto. Her green hair indicated her mutant nature, and like her father, Polaris harbored the ability to control magnetism and manipulate metal susceptible to magnetic forces. After her powers had manifested and she grasped it more to reach her full potential, Polaris' powers evolved in inexplicable proportions, deeming her as the mistress of magnetism. Growing up, Lorna was alienated by the fact that she was adopted and had dyed her hair brown to fit in her former life, where she thought her biological parents had perished in a plane crash. But after she turned 18, her powers had started showcasing, and she found out about her real origin and how Magneto had erased her memory after her uncontrollable powers caused the plane to crash. She joined the X-Men and fell in love with the mutant named Havoc. Their epic love was intricately explored through Polaris' entire comic book run, ranging from the adversities of their relationship to the reasons which caused their unfortunate separation. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
My father is dead.
Lorna, what's happened to you?
Exploring the backstory of this immensely powerful mutant. After reaching her full potential, Polaris was considered as the biggest threat of the X-Men team. Lorna Dane stands 5 foot 7 inches tall, weighs 115 pounds, and has luscious green eyes and green hair. The story begins when Lorna's official father, Arnold, finds out about her mother Susanna's affair and confronts her while he is piloting a plane carrying all of them. 3-year-old Lorna starts screaming and crying on sight of her parents arguing and subconsciously manifests her powers, unintentionally ripping the plane apart and crashing it. Although her parents don't make it, Lorna survives the crash. Magneto is intensely drawn towards the site of the crash because of the magnetic pulse unleashed by Lorna. He finds Lorna only to realize she is his daughter and henceforth orders Mastermind to erase her memories by rewriting them via illusions. The incident causing the manifestation of her powers resulted in her hair turning from brown to green, which she always dyed as it helped her fit in and prevented her from being ostracized. Lorna was adopted by a loving family after the crash and grew up with big dreams of seeing the world until she turned 18 and found herself amidst an all-out battle between the X-Men and the demonic Mesmero. When Mesmero used his psyche generator to command all the latent mutants in North America, Lorna found herself drawn towards San Francisco, where Mesmero had set up his headquarters. On her way, she was stopped by the X-Man, Iceman, who made her slip on a patch of ice, breaking her trance. Iceman convinces Lorna to come to his apartment, where she is greeted by the rest of the team members of X-Men who learned about her latent mutant powers. Soon after, she is deemed as the Queen of Mutants by Mesmero, who kidnaps her with the help of his android Demi-Man and awaken all her mutant powers with the help of the psyche generator. When the X-Men try to rescue her from the clutches of Mesmero, they are met with Magneto, who reveals himself as Lorna's biological father and the mastermind behind the entire operation run by Mesmero. Even after deliberate proof of Magneto's evil agendas, Lorna could not turn on her father until Iceman finds out the real truth of the plane crash and the behind Lorna's origin from her adoptive parents. Later it was revealed that Magneto, who claimed to be her father, was actually one of Mesmero's androids. After the war ended, Lorna decided to join the X-Men, where her first code name was Magnetrix, but later changed it to Polaris, which she felt was more suited to her persona. Initially, Iceman had grown feelings towards Polaris, but she refused to reciprocate his advances and instead fell in love with her X-Men teammate Havoc. They fought quite a lot of grand battles together while living at Xavier's mansion with the rest of the X-Men, but later they shifted to California and settled in a deserted area of the Diablo mountain range where they pursued their mutual interest in geophysics. Some of her crucial comic book story arcs. Polaris makes her first appearance in Uncanny X-Men issue 49 when Mesmero uses his psyche generator to trigger the powers of the latent mutants and attract them towards him. Bobby Drake, aka Iceman, interferes to break the trance that she was put in by Mesmero's psyche waves and takes her back to his civil apartment in San Francisco in a supersonic ship he had borrowed from the Avengers. Her first encounter with the X-Men was when Lorna's real hair color is revealed after she took a shower at Bobby Drake's apartment. The team of disbanded X-Men members members were supposed to gather at the apartment, but Iceman had forgotten about it. Upon confronting her on the color of her hair, they realize Lorna to be a mutant with latent powers. When the X-Men leave her behind in the apartment with Iceman to fight Mesmero and the situation at hand, Lorna is greeted by Mesmero and his demi-men who bow down to her, calling her the Queen of Mutants after he has successfully trapped Iceman by freezing his brain. After this dramatic rendezvous, Lorna is abducted by Mesmero and shoved into a genetic stimulator that fully activates all her latent powers and abilities. When the X-Men come to her rescue, it is revealed that Magneto was the mastermind behind the entire Mesmero and the Demi-Man fiasco, alongside the fact that he is Lorna's biological father. Lorna hesitates to kill Magneto for that very reason, but defeats him when she learns that her parents died in a plane crash when she was just 3 years old. Lorna defeats Magneto, revealing that it was actually an android she had killed. Post this incident, Lorna Dane decided to move to Manhattan, New York, where she was shockingly captured by the Sentinels. She was in absolute disbelief that she had not even gotten the chance to use her powers and got abducted again. Lorna first meets Havoc, the younger brother of Cyclops, at the base of the Sentinels. This allows Larry Task, the person controlling the base, to use this to his benefit. He blackmails Havoc by threatening Lorna's life. The X-Men interfere again and rescue Havoc and Lorna from the clutches of the Sentinels. Lorna's journey to becoming Polaris begins right after this, as she decides to join the team of X-Men, as she had grown weary of sitting on the sidelines and waiting to be rescued. Lorna's interest with Havoc continues, which is actually an alias for Alex. This agitates Iceman, as he was in love with Lorna already and felt that he had the authority to pursue a relationship with her, as he was the one to introduce her to the X-Men. Lorna and Alex were either left out of action or were assigned with easy missions, as they were still too new to their powers and were not able to fully control it. Later, Lorna and Alex moved to a remote area in New Mexico desert to pursue their mutual interest in geophysics and finish their college degrees. They also assisted the X-Men on occasion, even though they officially lived as civilians. Just when Lorna felt that she was close to achieving her dream of living a normal life, Havoc was rejoining the X-Men without letting Lorna even get a hint about it. During the process of Havoc reclaiming his position with the X-Men, Lorna is hunted by the Marauders, and during the onset of heavy battle, she is possessed by Malice, a psionic being. This caused Lorna's powers to blend with Malice's, making them an inseparable and powerful being. Malice became a part of her, and she used her body to lead the Marauders for many years until the demise of Mr. Sinister, which weakened Malice's hold on Lorna along with her powers, finally allowing Lorna to regain her conscious mind and call the X-Men for help. But before their help could arrive, Lorna was again kidnapped by Savage Land soldiers and mutates who were headed by Zaladane. Zaladane claimed herself to be Lorna's sister and was a priestess of the Savage Land who organized an entire army to fight the X-Men when they came to Lorna's rescue. When Lorna refuses to work alongside Zaladane, she uses a machine to steal Lorna's mutant powers and fully absorb them as her own. Lorna loses her magnetic mutant powers but benefits herself by finally getting rid of Malice's psychic presence. Lorna's secondary mutation is activated when the X-Men continue their attempt of rescuing her, causing her massive growth in height, gaining super strength, and becoming invulnerable. Together, they successfully defeat Zaladane and her army, after which Lorna regains normal stature. Unable to decipher the reason behind her strange mutation, Lorna travels to Muir Island, where she looks for Moira McTaggart, the only person who is qualified enough to help her understand the cause behind all of this. On her path, she once again activates her secondary mutation and grows massive in size, discovering that her powers massively amplify negative emotions of those around her. Unfortunately, even after Moira McTaggart fully examined her, her questions remain unanswered, as she too was mystified and could not come to any conclusions with respect to Lorna's condition. Another crucial and significant story arc in Polaris' life is during M-Day. Numerous mutants lost their mutant powers to the events of M-Day. Lorna was among one of many to lose her mutant gene. Nonetheless, she tried to hide her loss from the team out of fear of being kicked out. Even after being confronted by Valerie Cooper, who was well aware of her loss, Lorna claimed it to be a psychological issue which would not allow her full access to her powers. It took Lorna to almost get killed until she finally admitted to her loss. Post this incident, Lorna leaves the team with Alex watching out for her, but again gets abducted on her journey by Dupe, an alien who crashed on Earth. She was then taken to Apocalypse, who consequently turned her into one of his horsemen, Pestilence. This gave her the ability to consume and create new plagues. Furthermore, Apocalypse gave Lorna back her old powers of magnetism, which she had lost on M-Day, using his highly equipped and advanced technology. Brainwashed by his influence, Pestilence attacked the World Health Organization and stole the viruses needed for her to create the Meta Plague. Apocalypse had a plan to infect the entire humankind so that he could offer the antidote to only 10% of the population, leaving the rest to be wiped out. When it is discovered that Pestilence is Lorna, the X-Men and the New Avengers battle the Apocalypse. To get away from his influence, Lorna recovers in the Xavier Institute of Higher Learning. Apocalypse fails to access Lorna in the Xavier Mansion even after his numerous attempts, until he is finally thwarted by the X-Men, bringing this chaos to an end.
Lorna, again!
She featured in key roles in the X-Men animated universe. In the X-Men animated universe, Polaris was first introduced as Iceman's girlfriend in the episode titled Cold Comfort. It was the character's first appearance on screen outside of comic books and was voiced by Terry Hawks. Polaris has always been a longtime ally of the X-Men, but she quit the team with Iceman after she almost died during a mission. But her retirement was not something she could stomach for very long, so one day she decided to abandon Iceman. She was tracked by Iceman to the government compound, serving as the X-Factor headquarters. This team consisted of Forge, Polaris, Havoc, Wolfsbane, Strong Guy, Quicksilver, and Multiple Man, which was based on the government-sponsored version of the X-Factor team from the 1990s. When the X-Men arrive in search of Iceman and Jubilee, they get into a fight with the X-Factor, which ends in a draw, causing them to leave after Polaris accepts that she was in love with Havoc and wanted to remain with the X-Factor. After Iceman left with the X-Men, Polaris and her new boyfriend Havoc led the X-Factor. In the Phalanx Covenant, Polaris helped Magneto and a ragtag team of mutants to fight the Phalanx. Weirdly enough, there was no mention of Polaris' familial bonds with Magneto through this entire course. The character of Polaris also appeared in the animated series of Wolverine and the X-Men, where she had a very close bond with her father Magneto on Genosha. In an episode titled as Badlands, Polaris was saved by Magneto in a last-minute attempt, deeming her to be the sole survivor of Genosha's destruction. She later forms a brief infatuation towards Gambit, who tries to steal Magneto's helmet as a part of a much larger plan. Later, Gambit breaks up with Polaris, causing her to leave him stranded in the middle of the sea. In the episode titled Foresight, Polaris' future self assists the X-Men to fight against Master Mold, who proves to be too powerful for them to overthrow. In the present day, Polaris turns on her father and sees him get banished as Scarlet Witch blink teleports Quicksilver and Magneto away. She was an important part of a live-action TV series. Polaris as a character was an integral part of an American superhero TV series called The Gifted, which was loosely based on the X-Men from the Marvel Comics universe. It was set in an alternate timeline to the film series of the X-Men, where the team has completely disappeared. Matt Nick served as the showrunner for the series, which was first aired from October 2nd, 2017 to January 15, 2018, consisting of a total of 13 solid episodes. This series starred Amy Acker and Stephen Moyer as ordinary parents who were on the run from the government after having discovered their children's special mutant abilities. They go on to join an underground community of mutants fighting to survive. Emma Dumont starred as Polaris in the series, who was a loyal and brave mutant with the ability to control magnetism. Polaris in this series was mentally unstable due to bipolar disorder and is depicted with green hair, as portrayed in the original comics, but with more subdued and subtle shades of green. The series hints towards Polaris' relationship and familial bonds with Magneto, along with her quest to accept her mantle of birthright in his absence. What makes Lorna Dane, aka Polaris, so unique? Apart from the obvious fact that Polaris was obnoxiously beautiful and eccentric within her beautiful green eyes and her luscious green hair, like her father Magneto, she possessed the ability to control magnetism. After having her latent mutant abilities triggered by Mesmero's psyche generator, she could also fly, manipulate metals susceptible to magnetic force, create massive force fields, and generate magnetic energy pulses. After rigorous training with the X-Men, when Polaris had a firmer grasp on their powers, she harvested the ability to manipulate the Earth's entire magnetic field as a whole, as shown in the entire mutant island of Krakoa into deep space. When her body was taken over by Malice and then absorbed by Zaladane, Polaris was hit by a second mutation, which was very advanced and unlike anything ever seen before in a mutant. She grew inhumanly tall, acquired super strength, and became invulnerable. As she explored more into her new profound powers, Polaris realized that she could see the world around her completely as a pattern of magnetic and electrical fields, extending for her to even see the natural magnetic auras of living beings, causing her to acquire powers like electromagnetic sight and electromagnetic spectrum manipulation, which also caused her to have partial resistance to ionizing radiation. Polaris was also noted to have a degree of healing factors wherein she could swiftly eliminate toxins and drugs out of her system. Polaris' evolution throughout the years made her one of the most powerful and feared superheroes of the X-Men. Apart from her unfortunate origin and her endless amount of psychological disturbances, Polaris has always found a way to reach out and stay in path, evolving as a character of great resilience from the very beginning. Polaris is no doubt one of the most underrated and powerful mutants in the X-Men team, which was obvious when Mesmero had dubbed her as the Queen of the Mutants. Her powers were initially similar to that of Magneto, but after her rendezvous with Malice in the Apocalypse, they evolved. Not to forget her recovery from becoming becoming Pestilence, who was capable of ending the world single-handedly, she lost and gained parts of herself through the entire journey, but she evolved to become a formidable character nonetheless. Please let us know in the comment box below about your thoughts on Polaris as a mutant, and do not forget to mention your favorite power of the very versatile Mistress of Magnetism. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.